Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome back to the channel. Today I have a BMW X5. We're not here to talk about that necessarily, but I have rented it from Turo. And what I want to do is give you guys what I think are the pros and cons of renting from Turo. I've rented multiple cars, including a Maserati, Alfa Romeo 4C, and a Barth, a Mercedes-Benz, Wrangler, just a bunch of other cars, a Boxster. I've rented them using the Turo Go app where you can unlock the car yourself, and I've also rented directly from people where you actually have to speak to them. Also during the pandemic, I rented a C7, which we didn't meet up, but I didn't use the app, and I'll explain in a bit. Without further ado, here are my pros and cons of renting from Turo. Quick disclaimer before we start with the pros and cons. I'm only speaking about renting from Turo, so you are the person renting from Turo. I'm not speaking at all about you renting your car out on Turo. That I have no experience with whatsoever. You will be able to find a lot of videos specifically to you renting your car on Turo. This is not it. So yeah, now we can continue on with the pros and cons of renting from Turo. The obvious pro is you are more than likely to rent a car that you won't find at your typical Hertz rent-a-car or any big name company rental place. Usually those places have a lot of American vehicles. Obviously a Ford Mustang, a Chevy Camaro, things like that are really awesome. But if you wanted to rent, like I did, an Alfa Romeo 4C, which now I own, we'll get into that later, but something like that, you're not going to find that at your big name rental places. So that is the obvious pro of renting from Turo. The fact that you get to rent something so unique and something just awesome to drive and guaranteed to drive too, which brings us to another pro. When you're renting from Turo, you know what you're getting for the most part. Now I'm not talking about conditions of the car or anything like that. I'm speaking about, you want an Alfa Romeo 4C, you know you're gonna get an Alfa Romeo 4C. I don't know how many of you have said, yeah, I'm gonna get that convertible Mustang. You get there and they're like, well, all we have is a Chevy Camaro. Nothing against that, right? At all. I personally would still be happy, but my point is, you're not getting what you want, exactly what you chose when you go that route. So the pro with Turo again is, you know exactly what you're getting when you rent it. So let's jump into a con. Kind of already mentioned it right there, like when I said you know what you're getting, and I didn't mean necessarily by like the conditions. So that's the thing. These are cars that belong to someone personally. So there's a small chance, it hasn't happened to me yet, but there is a small chance that you might have a car that hasn't been well kept. Maybe it's not as clean or up to spec as what you thought you were renting. Whereas if you go to a big name rental place, if something like that happens, if you notice something right off the bat, or if they notice something right off the bat, chances are you're probably going to jump into another car or a very similar car right away, no problem, no questions asked, and usually not extra charged. This one, you arrive at the spot, you get the car, you think you're driving something perfect, and it's probably not perfect. Again, no personal issues with that for me per se, but that, you know, definitely a con, that you're getting into the unknown really, and it's not a big name company. So for that reason, it's a con, that you don't know how well kept the car is. Another con, this one did happen to me recently, and that is that because it's a personally owned car, they can pretty much just cancel at any time. Actually, 2 times now that I think about it. First time was I was trying to rent a Toyota Supra, the brand new one. I had it locked in pretty much. The person decided like, oh, you know what? I can't rent it out that weekend. Now, again, I'm not a Turo person in the sense that I rent out my car, so I don't know exactly how it works, but my assumption is that if your car is not ready to rent out, you can just simply put it on a pause or something like that, or just say it's not available. So I was a little bit suspect that this person decided right then and there, when I decided that I want to rent it, that they decided that no, it's not up for rent. And the thing that's even funnier is that that person I thought I was going to rent from all of a sudden disappeared, like they're not to be found. I don't know if they blocked me or what, or if they didn't trust me, if I didn't rent enough cars at the time, maybe because I mentioned in the message that, hey, you know, can't wait to see this car and I'm going to do some YouTube videos with it. That might have scared them off. But that is definitely a con right there, is that you could be excited, think you're going to rent that one car that you're going to be super happy driving around, and then all of a sudden you are hit with a denied. The other one that happened recently is actually with the same person that rented me this car. They have a bunch of cars to rent. I was going to rent another vehicle way ahead of time. So maybe like 2 weeks ago, I said, you know what? Maybe on this day, I will rent out this car. So I went ahead and booked it. And he hit me with a no, I don't usually book that far in advance for a one-day rental. So what he wanted was someone to rent ahead of time, but for multiple days. I think his fear there is that he might be missing out on someone that will rent the car for a long time where he would get more money, lose that customer because I'm renting it for one of those days. So I get it, I totally understand, but that is definitely a con. If you're trying to rent a specific car for one day, a person can say, no, I want to hold off and rent to someone that'll rent for long term, or check back with me and we'll rent last minute if it is available then. So that's a con right there. This next one is a 2-for-1. This one is a pro and a con, and that's flexibility. We'll start off with the con. The con about the flexibility, like I was mentioning earlier, they are flexible to cancel at any time. So those two cancellations for me are just an example of ways that it could be canceled. The trip can be canceled, but they really are flexible to just cancel at any time. Turo will show it on the review where it automatically shows anytime the host canceled a trip, but it won't necessarily say exactly why. It's just an automatic thing that Turo puts when something is canceled. So yeah, that flexibility part on their end where they could just cancel at any time, that could be a con, because you could be all set to go and then last minute you have to make a decision of what you're going to do as far as transportation. The pro about the flexibility is that if you're running late, if you are wanting something special, like for example, like, hey, can you leave the key here for me, or can I meet you here or there, or can you bring the car to me to the airport, things like that. So yeah, that's a pro where you have options. It's not like you have to go to a specific place. Let's say you're at the airport and you have to catch one of those trolleys to go all the way to the rental place, wait in line, go through that normal process of renting a vehicle. You can meet the person at their place. Maybe they could bring it to your hotel after you've gotten to the hotel, or pick you up at the airport with the car itself. There's just so many things. All of those I actually haven't done, except for when I rented a C7 during the pandemic. They were flexible enough where they didn't have the feature to unlock the car with your phone, but they wanted to be safe. So what they did is said, hey, I'm going to leave the key here. They were text messaging me, I'm going to leave the key here, go ahead and get it, blah, 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 this and that. So I was able to get the car pretty much on my own without any actual assistance from the person, but at the same time without the app feature of unlocking it myself. So that brings me to another pro, which is the Go feature on the app, where you can, like I did with this car, you could just, with your phone, go up to the car and unlock the car. The key is usually in the glove box, and you go from there. You're able to take pictures of the car in its entirety, upload them, and you don't have to actually meet anyone. So that's helpful for multiple reasons. The obvious is that you're not on their schedule, where the person's like, yeah, I can't meet at exactly this time. Can you meet me at another time, right? Pretty much at the time you want to go to the car, you go to the car with your phone, unlock the car, and just drive off. Pretty much that's it. I've done that more times than actually meeting a person up. And it's just, and in times like this, it makes more sense too, because you're not making any contact with a person whatsoever. It's just you in the car the whole entire time. A quick con to that, and this happened to me, but it worked out, is that once you're done with the car and everything is locked up the way it was when you got to the car, you got to be careful not to leave your garage door opener, which is what I did one time, or leave your keys or anything like that. The Good thing is that the one time that did happen to me, I was able to call up the person real quick, or message them actually. I messaged the person up real quick, and they were able to remotely unlock the car. So I got my garage door opener out, I closed it, messaged the person that I got what I needed, and they remotely locked the car, and I saw it all happen right in front of my eyes. So even though that is a con to using the app, it's also not that bad, because rest assured that you are able to get whatever you might have left in the car. Just a step of hoping that person will respond quickly and you're able to get your stuff out. And if it's your phone that you left inside, well, no, you wouldn't be able to, because you gotta lock it with your phone. So yeah, don't worry about that. Another con about renting from Turo is the price. The prices vary, and I don't mean like they vary like, oh, this X5 cost me $97 and that Maserati cost me $100 a day. What I mean is, you may see multiple Teslas. Tesla is a popular one. You might see a bunch of Tesla 3s. Now I know there's different variations of that, or trims. But what I mean is, one guy might want $100 a day. The other person might want $150 a day. One person might say, now this is not really price related, but just in the subject of differences, some person might say like, okay, 100 miles. Another person might say unlimited miles. So all those prices, when you factor them in, they are very different. You may have, like for example with me, where I just rent the cars for a day, you might have a car that's close to your home, but it costs $200 to rent. That same exact model might be 40 miles away, but it's only it's like half that price. So that's a con. You can't just assume that whatever I paid to rent this car is what you're going to pay in your neighborhood or whatever city you're going to, or if you rent it in this city and you go to another city. You get my point. The prices vary and all of the other things vary. It's not a set thing where automatically a BMW X5 is always going to be like $97, $98. It all depends on the owner and what they want to do. That brings me to another con, which is when it comes to inconsistency like that, depending on your age as well. Some might require, if you're under 30 years old, that you put a deposit down. Deposit can be, I think, upwards of like $400, depending on the car. And that's another thing where it's up to the owner. It's not, automatically you're renting a Maserati and you have to pay a deposit or not pay a deposit. It just all varies, right? So and in age too. I believe there's one that I think they consider 21 the age where you might have to put a deposit or not. Some might consider 30. So that, again, you might find the car that you want at the price you want, at the location you want, and then come to find like you have to put a $400 deposit because of your age. Some cars require, I think I saw one time, I haven't seen it up there again, but I did see a McLaren up there once. They wanted $1,000 a day to rent it out. The insurance, I'm pretty sure, is ridiculous, and they wanted a deposit of $400 as well. That one did not matter what your age was, you're going to put down that deposit. And I haven't had that situation where I had to put a deposit down, but it does say that you do get that deposit back 2 or 3 days after the rental is completed. You got to have that extra cash to play. So that's a con right there. Just the variations of that. Going back into variations of renting from Turo and the differences depending on who's renting it out is the miles. Just recently I saw some cars going with unlimited miles, but before that, forget it. Now, if you go to like a Hertz rental car or something like that, you are more than likely going to get unlimited miles. But on a Turo, it is very unlikely that you are going to get unlimited miles. You're going to usually get, on average, 100 miles to play with. After that, you're going to have to pay a little bit extra. That happened to me one time with the Alfa Romeo 4C, where I did go over, use toll. So those things, they charge you later on. My guy was nice enough, and I don't know if I'm supposed to say this on camera, but he was nice enough to give me a bit of a discount on my overage as far as like how many miles I drove. So I got lucky there. It wasn't a whole lot, but it's definitely a con where you're very limited to unlimited miles. Now, These miles that they do give you are per day, so obviously if you're renting for a week or so, you know, expect that the miles that you are allowed will also go up as well in total. I mean, that makes sense, right? It's per day anyway. Just keep that in mind, that when you're renting from Turo, it's really more about that special car that you're renting. It's not necessarily that convenience of being able to just go in a car and drive unlimited miles. Again, I have seen some. I saw a Mazda Miata recently that was stick shifted with unlimited miles, and I'm pretty sure I saw a Tesla with unlimited miles as well. So anyways, I hope that really helped you guys out on knowing the pros and cons of renting from Turo. I'm sure there's a lot that I've missed. To be honest with you, I've experienced nothing, mainly good things, good experiences with the cars, loving the cars more than anything. The people that I've actually met in person are into cars as well. They're very nice, very kind. Haven't had any issues there. One of the guys, the one I rented the Alfa Romeo 4C from, he text messages me every once in a while because I did buy an Alfa Romeo 4C. So that's another, actually that's a pro before we go. If you're looking to buy a certain car, shoot, even if you're not looking to buy a certain car, renting from Turo might get you to buy one of those cars. That happened to me twice. Yes, twice within a year. I rented a Barth 500, fell in love, bought one. Fell in love with the Alfa Romeo 4C, and I bought one. So yeah, so maybe that's a pro and a con, because it's a pro because you get to try, and it's a con because you're gonna spend your money. Anyways, I hope this video was helpful. Please hit me up down in the comments. I have a popular video where I show you guys how to use the Go app and how to rent off of Turo, so please check that out. It's a very helpful video as well. If you have any questions, don't hesitate, hit me up in the comments down below. If you haven't done so, please subscribe, share with anyone that might like this type of content. Check out my other videos, my vlogs, and yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you guys later.